thanks for Paul for inviting me back again, and Lucy for all the work that you do in the behind the scene, and John and all that. This is going to be fun. There's my email on the bottom if you need if you want an excerpt from the presentation, because it's a mixture of all little tidbits of what I consider my favorites. So that's on there very quickly. What we're going to basically cover is this list, and I'm not going to come back to the PowerPoint anymore because we don't like boring slides. But basically, I'm going to just highlight some of the key things that I really like in the product in 4.3. Many of these are from 4.2, but they've been enhanced and whatever. So a lot of them could be either way. But just some things that I find really cool that I think that really separate the product from other products that are out there as well. I have a lot of fun working with them all. And with 4.3, it's how did I do it in 4.2? Now what am I doing in 4.3? Is it similar? Is it different? Is it there at all? So those are the kind of things we look for there as well. So let me get out there, just get in live, get logged in. And some of you, this may be the first time looking at 4.3. Paul's got a great series of webinars that he does. I've got one I'm doing later this week as well with a third party, but basically trying to educate you all and give you a comfort factor for logging in. I'm not going to spend much time on this because I'm not here to talk about navigating. I think we've had a couple people already from InfoSol that have done that in prior sessions. So, but here's your entry point, the BI Launchpad in its new format. Got a nice little scroll rule or bar that you can use instead of looking directly in here for what you're doing. So let me jump over to folders for a second just to show you real quick. Some of the presentations I have, I will be coming back here, opening up, and we'll be taking a look at them in 30 minutes or so. I don't have a lot of time to build a lot of these from scratch. So, but I will be doing a mixture of both. And some of these you may like, and I can take a little snippet out of there and send it to you if that was of interest to you as well. I'm going to go back up to the home button. There's a lot of neat little shortcuts you can do for jumping around and navigating and doing things as well. So let me go out to Webi. It's not on the right side along the left edge, but as you see, across the bottom, and you reach it a couple different ways. So we're going to talk about some of the different functions. I'm going to build simple query. We'll just try to use it throughout for all the different examples that we're doing so that we can get a lot of variety and not go in depth on something. There's a 4.3 look. It's going to change with 4.3 SP3. I know Paul's group and I've been looking at it as well. We're going to pick universe, although I could do a Webi document. That's something we're not used to seeing. And the same old that we had before and some other options on the left. That will change later. We'll go into universe. From our portfolio, we keep our SQL Server version now that we're in 4.3, not supporting Access. I'm going to use eFashion, as boring as it is. It'll more than suffice for what we're trying to accomplish. And as I go through and start getting in some of the features, you'll get an opportunity to kind of see how I'm navigating through and what's going on as well. It helps to get some type of training if it's a 1 or 2 day update or whatever. You know, there's some good content out there, mainly because you want to save yourself some time. I have a client, and some of you may be out there right now in the webinar. I don't know. They had a client of mine about a month ago. They came in, it was an East Coast company. They went off on a Friday. They were running 4.2 SP 7 or 8. They come in the following morning or following after the weekend on Monday, and all of a sudden they're running 4.3 SP2. And they have no clue where they are, no clue. So I started getting emails from people that I had worked with in the past, and they said, well, you moved to 4.3 SP2, you might want to look at getting, some training or get somebody to help you through it, whatever, along the way. So you might find you get surprised. A lot of the companies are being smart enough to let you know and kind of work up a sandbox environment for you later if need be or whatever. The query panel is very similar in terms of its layout. On the bottom half here, you look over on the right. As you go down, you'll see the run and apply changes. It all is on the bottom instead of the top. And if you've been with the product long term, it seems like it goes a back and forth kind of way all the time. So let's go into time period hierarchy here. And I'm just going to bring in year. Again, a lot of this is pretty much the same. Get our year over there. I want to double click it over there, but I can also drag it in if I needed to. Come on, guys, cooperate. And we're going to go down and get the state next and a couple measures to go with it. We can get rolling. Come on, guys, anytime now. We got our year over there. We'll go down to the store folder, grab state. I'm dragging, dropping, or double clicking will do it as well. Do it that way. And just like before, if I grab an entire folder and double click on it, the good news is I get all the objects in it. The bad news is I get all the objects in it again as well. So let me get the other two measures in there. We'll run the query and then things will pick up for us there as we get rolling along. environment, give them to me. Get them up there. There we go. And I'm going to take out discount. I don't like that one there. And we'll go down to the bottom and run it, set them on top. So just kind of giving you some general view of the navigation process. Query panel is laid out generally the same. Some things are in different places, but in time you'll get used to that as well. And I'll start with my first example, which is going to be an example called grouping, one that I like to highlight that I'm amazed so many people don't even know is out there. Some of the power for it as well.
Someone's asking, Michael, what version are you demoing today?
4.3 SP2.
Okay. Which patch level?
Patch 300.
Okay.
It's coming up finally. And we'll get rid of discount out of here. We won't fool around with any query filters for right now. There's a feature we can do that. I can show you through an example later to make good sense. And there's my report. Finally, I apologize for the delay. I'm going to move this way over. I did a click and a second click to select the whole block. That's going to be changed in 4.3 SP3, which has been real fun working with that. Here's my title, which we could float around if you want. And there's a lot of things we could look at as well. So what I want to talk about, the first thing is a group. But before we do it, let's apply a break. Let's break it by year. It gives us an opportunity to review some of the features and stuff. So I'll click the year column here, select it from within. And over on the right side, as long as you're on, there's two primary panels, the main side panel and the main build panel up here on the top, which has data and formatting as its generic functionality. So we've got all these in here. What I want to do is I'm going to go over to the function for break right here. When I select it, it's going to come down and give me a little option here for adding a break. I can add a break and say, let's add one on year and year only. Okay. And you'll notice, whoop, I didn't pick anything. That's not going to work real well if I don't checkbox it. Get that one in there like this. So it's like the analysis toolbar in a new place with some of the functionality, but not all. So as you saw in 4.2 SP6 and above, the automatic subtotals. And once again, with the stuff I'm showing you today, it may behoove you to take a look at some new features that came out in the 4.2 release from Service Pack 3 through 7. I can make that available to people. There's a lot of those features you never saw. You got trained years ago and you wanted to use it. And here's a break that we're going to do as well. You didn't get exposed to it a long time when you're training because it didn't exist. So do take some time on that particular one. And last time I did a webinar, I had some requests for it as well. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to group my states. I want them as regions. I don't want them as state. All right. Very powerful feature used a lot in healthcare with the different codes and things that they use, or they want to regroup things a different way. How can I do that to make it convert? Well, one way is to build an if then else expression, which we're going to do in a couple minutes to highlight some other functionality that's there as well, new features that I like or as part of the product. But I want to group those. I could use an if then else expression. Say if my state is in the list of California, Colorado, then West Coast, else if, and so on. A lot of work. Webi said, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to do that? Why don't we do a group on this one and group those together? Okay. So we're going to go over here to the right, go to state. Oh, it's state. Do it over here. There's more than one place. We're going to select the option for manage groups. It's going to come up and basically populate the manage group window. This should look familiar from 4.2 to 4.3. What you want to do is you work with the new version, try to think in terms of what you're used to doing in the old days and how does it lay out here so you more quickly can jump on it. Just like before, we're going to rename this region.
So Michael, quick question there. Can the available functionalities be seen on a right click as well, like break, section, filter?
Some are, some are, yeah. So we'll take a look at that one here. So I want to take California, Colorado, just those two. Instead of going on top, we go to the bottom. Little subtle things like that will drive you crazy. We'll group those together. I'll just abbreviate it. I'll call it West. And I can just pick it up from there. It actually doesn't really matter. Now they've been regrouped, reclassified. I take DC, Massachusetts, and New York. We want to group those together. And we'll call that Northeast. Actually, North will work just fine for it. Abbreviate it for time's sake. And we'll pick Florida and Texas. We may want to group those together. And we're going to call that one South. That one, drop that one into place. And we have the lone one, which is nice how Webi handles it over the way the old desktop did. I can do single value without any trouble at all. Group that one together, and we'll call that Midwest or Mid. You're doing okay on it. And now they've all been grouped. Make sure you put descriptions. A lot of description functionality came out in the 4.2 Service Pack 6 release in that area or somewhere around there, carried over to here. You may not never have seen it. So there you go. We do our work on the bottom instead of the top. That's no big deal. Okay. And that's all groups. One of the questions that often comes up is, what about ungrouped values? If I go to ungrouped values, I can select a value for those if I wanted to. Undefined, or if they are ungrouped, what do we want them to do is what it comes down to. Apply the filters. So we'll just leave it the way it is. Here we don't need to. Here's our ungrouped values, visible or automatically grouped. All right, this is a change from 4.2 or is up on top. What this allows is, what happens if a new entry shows up post this report maybe a week from now? Right now it'll be visible, which means you'll see the literally the value for state. I want them grouped into a special category, and I might want to call it others, like you see right there. So I have that ability to do that if I wanted to as well. Okay, and I can get out of there. And now, notice now they didn't change. Now, why is that? Little subtleties that we get sucked in because we're so used to seeing it change instantly. I didn't do the grouping over here. I didn't go over to the right side here and say, you know, let's do one of the particular functions if they do exist in here. They don't have it in that shortcut, just to kind of give you a little look at what's going on. So what I've got to do is I have to drag it in. Okay, so I have the ability to drag it back and forth very easily. Drag it in. You can't drag it out of this under this new construct. So I might say, well, let's just take region and let's drag it over here. We'll put it to the left of state. And then if I wanted, I could eliminate the state column. Okay. Now, another way I could have done that, again, trying to introduce you to things that help you in the new world, is you could have gone in, as long as highlight the block anywhere in the block, and over on the right side here, if I go over to the feeder panel side here, and I come down this path for the feed side of it, it's got all my objects that are in there, as you see. And I can take region and drop it down here. I can take region, drop it somewhere else. So if I drag region across, notice how I can squeeze it in between. So you can do all your manipulating. You now have the ability to do over here, the main side panel, the main build panel, following the feeder option here. And I've worked my region in. And if I want to get rid of state, I can do that right here as well. And eliminate it all there. So what was different about it this way is you created it, dragged it in, and then you could eliminate, do all of your work in here. Again, a nice little area for managing that as well. Okay. So what would happen if I wanted to do it the long way? This brings in another very unique feature that I like. This group function just saves you a whole lot of time, a whole lot of time. But you might run into a scenario where you need to actually create one because of the unique nature of it. It might not work exactly this way. Well, by the way, you can create a region, and I could have regrouped those into another group of its own, and so on. You can do multiple levels. I always like to do training classes, options like that, because it's really cool. And then you can do secondary local filters within it as well, or input controls would lend itself well as well. So let's show you another feature that I'm really like. Let me go over to the right where we've got region. Okay. And well, we don't want to do it that way. What we want to do is we're going to go up here and we want to add a new variable right here. So we'll click the add variable button. Let's call this one region if region if. It's coming from an if statement on there, and it's dimension, which you can always change your qualifiers. Notice I did my add over on the right here. There are other places on the left, so little shortcuts for jumping around, and you have your formula bar on top as well. But we want to create region if, so I differentiate it from the first one. And what you normally want to do is build your expression down here. Notice the left-right orientation, horizontal. All right, very different from what we're used to from before. Okay, we had the build box was on top, and we had the three categories or whatever you want to call them underneath with objects, functions, and operators. So now they laid it more across, horizontal type view, and you've got, make it bigger here. And once you stretch it all out in the appropriate areas, it will keep that too when you go in and out. So what I need to do is I need to start with an if. So I'm going to go under miscellaneous, and I go down to the if. I want to say if my state is in. Okay, so I'm going to double click it in there, but then I'm going to stop. Now you look at that and say, okay, well, wait a minute, it's an if statement. So I want to say if state in list. Okay, you think, but wait a minute, which if statement am I using? I came from the Excel world, and I have an if function rather than if command, if you want to call it that, whatever function it's defined here. Which one is that? Okay, so you have the ability to get help on that one. Okay, and you can look it up. You scroll down here to move this window down a little bit for it. That one over a little bit more that way. So you have the ability to look at the online help for that one. Where did it go? Here it is. It says if Boolean value, then true, else false. Notice it's way down on the bottom. That's your generic definition you always get when you click on all your different objects or functions or operators. If I go to the need help in the way in the right-hand corner, this is a really slick feature that's been around a long time, by the way. I'm amazed how many people miss it. Came into the 4.2 world. Actually, might have even been prior to that. It's getting to the point where kind of lost track where a lot of these things come from. And this is the awesome help portal that you get. 2/3 of it's on the right is basically applied to what you're working on currently. The other 1/3 is an index of that plus other features in case you wanted to look at some other options while you're in here. You need to learn how to use this window. That's what I like about it is it's so powerful. It's there to help you. Okay, you wanted to say if, but you weren't sure which one to use. Description, function group, general. Here's the layout. Looks 4.2 SB3 versus 4.3 SB2. Just, the help portion is pretty much the same. So you look at the inputs, you look at your notes, and typically what will happen is you'll go down to the if section for an example to figure out how to do that. All right, so use this. It gives you exactly what you need to do when you're stuck. Okay, and it has a related if. You say, well, wait a minute. Well, why would there be a related if? Well, this is the if then else that we're going to use in a minute. But what if I'm an if function person? So down on the bottom under related information, I can click the if button here. Let me get that one to come up. So you jump me over to the other if. Now it brings up the if function rather than if then else expression that we saw. And it's if left parent Boolean value true, semicolon false. That's another way you can do things. All of this is available to you. There's another example I'm going to show you in a little bit for this one as well. All I wanted to do is say if my state, so I'll drag state or double click state over there. And then I want to space it. I want to use an in list bucket, which is over in the operators. So I'll grab the in list right here. Now I'm waiting for, what I want to put in the in list are the if state is in the list of values with whatever ones I put in here. So what you would do is you'd start typing the values in between the parentheses. Then the issue becomes, do I put quotes around it? Is it single or double? Do I separate the values by semicolons, colons? Do I just do a comma? What do I do for that particular one? Once again, this is like things that make your life easier. So let's pop over to here.
Michael, quick question.
Right.
Came in from YouTube. Can I refresh my query within the query panel without having to exit to the report design interface?
Yes, there's a refresh option that's available on top here when we're in the report viewer window. So you could just hit refresh query at that point, and it'll refresh that. Or it can be selective about it. Actually, it gives you the ability to select. So yes, you could. Yep.
Thanks.
So as you look at it, say, well, how do I do the in list? Oh, here it is, in list, double quote, oh, and a semicolon separator. It's helping you sort it out. You say, well, that's all I need to do. All right. And then you come back here and say, well, wait a minute, let's do that. Okay. Is in the list of values. Okay. But now I still got to put them in there. And you say, well, I don't want to have to put them in there. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Now I know how the syntax is supposed to be entered, but I'm just not too sure about it. So over on the right side here near the top, this was introduced a long time back. There's a very cool feature called the values button. By clicking on values, it's waiting for me to highlight something. And so we're going to have to make sure we highlight state. Then when I go to the values button, get to pop up. It'll take a minute or two. It brings back all the values. You check mark the ones you want. You see a lot more checkboxing now in the 4.3 world versus 4.2. So instead of selecting with an arrow left and right and so on, those are some of the subtleties, some of the many that are in there. So I can say if it's in the list of these values, look how much time it saved you. I might have someone out there right now that I trained or worked with before, might remember running into this. And I remember the comment I get from many people said, this is incredible. You only picked 2. So what big deal typing them in? What if each one of these individual in-list buckets has 10 or 12 or 14? All that work you save by being able to take advantage of. Then now I'll say double quote West. Oh, let's get it in there. WEST I'll just do
So-
it that way and
so
I can
Michael,
stop.
If, if you double click in this, will it pull up the list of values?
You have to double click on the values button, but you have to make sure you've got something highlighted. In the older days with, when we had the Java version, or whatever else, you could just click on the values button and it kind of figured out what you were looking for. But here I had to highlight. When I double clicked on it initially, it didn't do anything because I did not have anything highlighted. You want to make sure it's dimensions and not measures, obviously, what we're trying to with the values button here. So long as you got something highlighted, it will bring up the box for you automatically. And that's just the carryover from earlier versions as well. So I've got my state, year, and I've got my new variable here. Okay. Notice I have to double check what's going on in here. It's a qualifier for it. I called it region if undefined. We don't have anything to worry about there. So we've got it laid out pretty good. You can check marks it if you want to make sure. So, and that is correct. So now we can go down and say, okay. And I got my region if in here instead of region. So I can actually just overlay it. I have the ability to go all the way across, but I'm in the main side panel. I've got the feeder option here under the data side for this piece here. So what I could do is I could say, let's delete that one out. I mean, a number of different ways to do that one. Got to reselect the block to reactivate this. And then I'm going to bring the region if, let's go back here. Click our option for that. Then I can take my region if and I can slide it right in between. You could slide it to the bottom over you can do a replace over the top and so on. We basically drop it into place. And the only one's defined as west. I can come back and fill in the rest later on. That's pretty interesting. You had the grouping function for one part of it, but then we use the enlist if with the enlist and did it that particular way as well. So another one I want to do right now, and I'm going to show you this one here, is a random number generator. All right. And I've got this one already defined. So I'm going to leave this while we're here. I'm going to go back out home. Hope this won't slow it down too much for us. And let's go back to folders. Okay. Here's my personal folders in public under demo 1. I have some nice things set up in here. Here are all of them. I got to make sure I scroll down to see them all on there. For this particular one, I want to show you exactly what we had to do to be able to create or make this random number generator work for us. So it's really cool. Random number. This is the one right here that I want. I had a client actually give this to me one time in a class on the West Coast. We took it, my staff and I, we reworked it and kind of made it a little easier to work with. And the way it works is here's random number that was assigned automatically, and it does change each and every time. So the question is, how does it work? Well, we got to get into edit mode first. It's not letting me do anything. An upper right-hand corner until I go to full design mode. There's my random number right there. That one. And I actually created a variable. The rules from the old days still carry forward. In most cases, you want to try to stick with variables instead of formulas. Formulas are stuck to a spot, but the variables float in this particular case. So let's take a look at how this was generated. And I'm not going to do too much on it, but I want to at least take a peek at it. You could literally copy the code right in. When we regenerated, I pulled it all in. And you need something that's going to make the values change regularly as you're using the formula. So what he did was we took the year, the seconds, the months, and the hours. We built it into this little formula. You can, if you're interested in this and you have a need for it, let me know. Without having a use for it, it's a little harder to see. But so we say to number a substring of the format number of the mod of the power row index to number. It's tricky, so you'd have to look at the pieces of it. So I'm not going to go through the specifics in time. But by using a time function for hours, minutes, and seconds, every time you refresh it, it's going to give you a new set because the time changed. The way that this little piece was built, I don't know where they pulled this from, but someone might have seen it or whatever. And this actually will generate a random number every time you refresh it. So what you just saw that we had, if I were to come out of this, okay. And as we look at the numbers here, I can go up to the corner here. There's my refresh button right here to refresh it. And this was a 0.43, now it's a 0.13, and you have that little function. I get a request for this every once in a while. I'd like to take credit for it, but I can't. Someone else built it. We tweaked it, modified it, tried to generalize it a little bit more. But that's pretty cool. And I have certain types of businesses that like having that function, and they like to take advantage of it as well. Okay. So notice up on top, we have our different documents. We used to have tabs going across the top as they opened up more and more documents at the same time. There's the random number one I just showed you was there. Okay. So that one there. So we'll take a look. Yeah, I don't need to save it. Doesn't really matter. Oh, come back to folders. Yeah, back to Webi. There was the original report we started with. So that worked out well. Let's go back to this one. I want to take the region out. I can do it all over here. As long as I've got some anywhere in the block highlighted, I have the ability to bring the build panel here and come down through the feeder side here. I want to get down into here. I can say I want to get rid of the region if to take it out of the report block. I'm not eliminating it as a variable, but just to take it out here. And now we need to add California back, or the states back, into the column in the report that we see here. And we'll come back in and we'll take our state and we'll stick it in after the year right in here. The break still held for us, and we're ready to go for that one as well. So that was a random number generator. Another one that I get requested for, and it's a mixture. I've shown it before, but it fits in the mixed bag of different things that I like here for this particular one. Let me go back again. Home button, so I can go back to my folders. I'm gonna do a real quick one, this one, because some of you have seen this one, some of you haven't, but it fits in with my top 10 of what I like to do. Okay, so I've got my report. Nope, let me make sure I've got the right one here. Report 2, random number I did already. Oh, the marquee one I wanted. Oh, this isn't the one I wanted for the marquee. I'll just close it.
Someone's asking Michael if you could, where is the auto sum that you showed again?
Do what now?
The auto sum, where is the auto sum you showed?
Oh, the one I just did, you mean?
Yeah.
All right, let me, it's right here. And I'll go back to, I can run it here, but I'm just going to go back to full. I want full design capability. So they want to see the numbers change.
Yeah, the auto sum, yeah.
Yeah. So when I do a refresh, okay, so now the numbers all change. The first one stays fixed. That's the one that I guess as a requirement for a base. Then it doesn't know it's changing because time's changing, and it was driven off of time. You had to have some kind of object that you're bringing in that changes. Time was the best one, and whoever dreamed that up did a really nice thing with it. It was very smart. So I'll click
no. The person just commented again. They were looking for the auto sum on a column of data.
Oh, auto sum on a column?
Yeah.
You don't get one because I don't have a break.
It was on the other report, not on this one.
Right. Oh, yeah. But we had a break on the one column. We'll go back to the other one.
Yeah.
You're meaning the Webi one that I developed here.
Yeah.
This one here. Yeah. Since I have a break on year, I get the auto sum. That's why. By the way, where do all these footers come from? Where are they derived from? We don't have an option for that functions that way. So what you have to do is, for the particular column you want, go down. And if you go down to footer calculations, that's where you'll find all these. And that's where you've got your options for count, min, max, sum, average, percentage, and so on. So it's in a different way you go about it. You don't have a tab on the analysis toolbar anymore. And that's the most common way you're going to have to do it. Highlight a particular column if you want to apply that particular footer calculation to. And that's the new way that you do things. Okay?
So the auto sum will only work on a break?
Only if there's a break. Right. Once you throw a break, it does the auto sum that way. Otherwise, it's not. Because when I brought it in, you saw the one I just opened up didn't have it. But the moment I threw the break, and if I were to take this year, let's go over to the right side. Let's find the break and get rid of it. Okay. And away it goes. And there's nothing on the bot, not even a grand totals on it or whatever. The moment I go back and say, let's add a break on year. Now I get the automatic break for all the, now it does all the measures. If you were doing it as a footer calculation, remember, you'd have to do each column one at a time. You could never multi-select. You're still not able to do that. But if you use the auto feature for this, it does it automatically across all the columns. But it doesn't give you the grand total on the bottom. That's the only thing. So you have a table layout here that gives you the ability to turn a header and footer on. So I'll click the footer option. By doing the footer option down at the very bottom, I get my grand total. Now, what I'm showing you isn't new. That wasn't a 4.3 SP2 feature or SP3 feature. That was a 4.3. It's a 4.2 feature that came out around SP6, if I remember right. But again, a lot of people haven't seen it. Now you see what it's doing for you automatically. but that's the
Okay.
other calculation piece.
Yeah, so can you highlight multiple columns, some, all of them at the same time? If you,
Well, if you try to do the multi-select on this,
yeah,
you're very limited in what you can do here. It's not going to allow you to do the do the two together because it doesn't even show it up as an option.
okay.
So, but that's not a change. We've never been able to multi-select in a block on measures in a what's a vertical table, whatever. We could never
That was the same
multi-select
before
turning
too.
on sum, count, average, min, max, percent, and so on. So, all right, well, let me open up the one I wanted to look at here. No, I don't want that one anymore. Let's look at some other options. Again, these are some of my favorites that I like. Part of it was the help functionality that I like as well. So I'm going to go back up to the home button. When you do that, you potentially now are going to have multiple tabs, multiple drop downs here that contain all the documents you've got open currently at the same time. So let's go to folders. Let's open up the demo again. Take a real quick look at this. Layering reports. This is the one I want to do to show you. I just want to show you the marquee again. Again, it's one of my favorites is why you're seeing it now. I've done it some presentations as a little mini one as well, but just so that we can see it real quick. It's a pretty slick option, pretty cool option for that one. And then get a lot of requests. I'm working on it, trying to get it to change direction and do some other things, but with all the new stuff going out, you're trying to get it as up to date and get all the detail level stuff for it. So tinkering around and seeing if you can add new examples sometimes can be time-wise a little more difficult for it. And got another one I'm going to show you very shortly here for prompts in a header. Coming up for that one. It'll come up here in a minute. A little slow, but this one's got a little more detail in it. So it takes a little longer to bring up. But it's worth the show just to show you, and I can show you what goes on. Look at that. So this is designed. I must have moved it full menu. I must have moved it. Yeah. So there's my marquee across the top of a report that I have, and it's showing it. And what I did in this particular case was we wanted to set it up. We have an input control with a switch value, which is just a variable, and we preloaded in. There's 2 charts and 2 reports. So right now, you're working at a cross table. If I pick a pie and do this, it's going to change it to a pie. And yet I still have the monitor, the little message, the banner going across the top. I said, well, I don't want a pie chart. I want a 3D. We'll do it this way. And then in the non-edit mode, you also have the really cool animation for it. And there's your little banner across the top. What we're concerned about is how is the banner created? Let me go to the right here. Let me click. Let me get full edit. And I just created a variable called marquee. Here it is. There's a couple little tricky things you have to do inside the CMC, a couple settings you have to take care of. But I have it outlined in a small little handout for that. Let's edit it, see what it looks like. And it's not very difficult at all. This is the marquee, select all to see all values. And then I used conditional formatting to hide it. So if they picked one of the 4 options, I had the banner across the top. Otherwise, when all 4 show up, the banner disappears. But that's as simple as it is to do a banner. Make it left to right or right to left, but it's simple, easy to use, and makes it very nice. We'll just do an okay to get out of there. And you see it in action. I didn't do it all 4. I might as well do that so you can at least get an idea what it does. So if I pick all, involved using input controls, using conditional formatting, and dropping it in. And now you notice all 4 show up. Pretty cool. And I don't have a banner across the top. I use conditional formatting to hide that one as well. So a lot of really neat little tips and things that you can do as well. So now let me jump around. Another one that I really like, prompt values, display prompt values in the header. This came from a customer.
Just before you do that, Michael, is the 3D viz rotatable?
This,
Yeah.
that I don't know. I don't know. I can look at, check it out. Check it out on that one. You can get animation in the non-design mode, but I'm not sure on that one. So I'll check it out and get back to you later. So pretty cool. Let's get rid of the layering. Some other neat features I have. One that I got asked a lot that I like. Sometimes I'll do this in a training environment, but I like to bring this one up. There's one called prompt, horizontal, vertical. Let me bring this one up. Let me go to edit mode, full edit. So here's the deal. Let me run this without talking about it so you can see what we're talking about. Up comes a list of values, your typical prompt. The prompt stuff from 4.2 carried into 4.3, you have optional prompts, all that. In 4.3 SP3, they have a new feature for prompts. For the prompt message, it has a little, for putting a hint in there, you can expand the information that's displayed along with the prompt statement itself, which I always felt was a limiting factor. I'm in 4.3 SP2, not 4.3 SP3, but been working a little bit in there. I know Paul and his group have as well. And it's a neat little feature. So it's simple. It's got 4 states, okay, right here, okay. Display or hide those. I have on that right here. I can say, let's reset the prompt values to defaults. So now it's requiring me to put something in here. We have it as an optional for that one. So if I choose to run it, well, let's see, what do I want to do here? Let's do this. Reset the values. Well, if we refresh here, that's what I'm really after. It's going to refresh the list and bring it back. And I want to pick California and DC and maybe Texas. Checkbox type orientation is a new thing in 4.3. It's used everywhere pretty much where you go. I actually got used to it pretty quick because there's things I didn't like about the old way it was done. But you notice what happened is, normally what would happen is I'd get my report and I wouldn't remember, it might be 10 pages long, but I don't remember what states did I select in the original one. You got to scroll through 10 pages, and if it's not in state order, along the way. So we have an option that you can display your prompt values. It would be one for each variable that you want to display. Let me look at this one here. State selected over on the right. I have a variable called state selected that we're going to edit right here. And all it is user response of select states. That's been around a long time. User response allows you to capture the values. But when they get displayed, you got to make sure you put a label in front of it, you know. But then also, when you select them, it's going to display them horizontally, separating them by, I believe, a semicolon. I just depend on it doing it automatically. I said, well, wait a minute. I don't want them to go horizontal. I want to go vertical. So I want to say state selected colon, and I want to have them going down instead of cross. So in this example, okay, let me cancel back there. Here's the ones state selected stacked. And we'll edit that one. And now I get replace state selected. This is the statement with the semicolons to replace in between. And what this actually does, without me getting into the detail on it, we could sit down some future if somebody was really interested in it and kind of tear it apart and show you the components for time's sake. But that's all it took to change them. And now it's like a line feed carriage returns, all you're generating with this one. And then when I displayed it in the report, I pulled them both together so you could see them. So here's what it normally would default to. Here's what it did with our little up and down thing as well. Once again, I'd love to take credit for that. There's a lot of neat little things I've discovered over the years, and a lot of other people, but there's always someone else that comes up with one. You may have already done this one, but how do I take this calculated variable and convert it so it displays them not horizontally, but vertically? Where you're looking at it right there, all automatically. So now I'll eliminate this one and leave this one out here. And I could have another one for years and for each of the different options to display the values. And that's nothing more than what I just showed you here. Let's look at either one of these. We'll do the second one. All you got to do is this. Change to the replace for state selected, use the corresponding syntax, which will generate a line feed carriage return and automatically converts it. And then you could put a column on top of it, a header or label for that one as well. And it works very, very well. That's again another option. I get a lot of requests for that one. They want it horizontal. We want it vertical instead of horizontal, so we're able to do it that way as well. All right. The next one I want to show you, let me do this one, use of aware. Let me do this. There's 2 examples I want to make sure I get in here right now that are important as well. So let's go back home. As I keep going back to home and leaving reports up, this becomes important now because instead of tabs across the top, this is how the new in 4.3 it manages having multiple documents open at the same time. Okay. So let me go back to my folders. And let me look at, this one is called Advanced Calc. I built about 3 or 4 neat little features into this one, Advanced Calc. I'm just clicking them in and then going over to the right to make sure I get full edit capabilities because it'll default. Okay. So I wanted to show you an example. This is a big one that comes up all the time. You've got, let's say an example here, we have sales revenue built in, all right? It's across multiple years, all right? So if I have my years going down and my sales revenue is going to show going that way, but it's, for the individual. But what if I want to be able to sum it up for each year and do something like this? I want to take that sales revenue and I want to break it into multiple variables, one for each year. So take the current year revenue, then I'll create another one that sums up for the prior year revenue. Then I'll do my variances and so on. And I can do all kinds of other calculations, both in and out of the function library for that as well. Use of a simple thing called a where. You think, well, what's the big deal with a where statement? How many years? I've been working a long time with the product, and very few times have I seen users take advantage of this where command that's available. So we know what current year revenue is. So let's take a look at it. Let's see what it is. It's a variable, current year revenue right here on the right. How did I define it? Let's edit it. And it says sum sales revenue where year equals 2022. Oh, that's cool for that one. Cancel back out of it. Let's look at the prior year revenue. I want to make sure I get the prior year revenue like this. We're going to edit that one. You can open the edits in different places, and there it's where year equals 2021. All right, and so on. Now you can take those individual columns and use them. Each one is now segmented out into individual years that are summed up. Now I know some of you are saying, yeah, you can do that with context operators. Yes, you can. I have an example here that I built, but for time's sake, I won't. Well, yes, you could. This is very easy though to give you not 4 separate queries, each generating it based on a different year. Now, what's the problem? When you hit year end and you move into the next year, you got to update them. Well, let's show you the general way you could have done it. Instead of hard coding in this year's of 2022 and the second year 2021, let's do it as a general one so it drives itself automatically for that one. So let's take a look at this one. Okay. Now it's sum of sales revenue where equals. You don't put in 2022 or 21. Where format number year of current date, and that picks up, that's the correct syntax for it. And that'll return only this year's revenue for the current year you're in, but it rolls itself automatically. That's what we want, that capability. We want it to roll and not be hard coded. That was current year. Now let's look at prior year revenue general. Again, through the example, you'll be able to see sum again where year equals, and there's a -1 here to go back up 1 year, and I could do a -2, 3, and 4. And look how nice that is to be able to break them all out in a very easy fashion. Again, if you know how to use context operators for each, for all, and in, a number of those things you can do, but this gives you, to me, better control. Seems to be the most popular amongst many of my customers as well for that one as well. All right, so again, using the simple where clause, wow, that really helps us taking, summed up variable values like sales revenue and bring them into separate buckets for it, but making them generic instead. The last one here, let me go back to the advanced calc. I have that one in there. I wanted to do the shape. Do I have this one in here though? Let's see if I have that one in here. No, I don't think that's where I put this one. I want to double check where I put this last example. Shade rank. That's what it is. Let me go out to here. This is a good one because it encompasses another new feature that I like, the rank function, along with so let's go back to my folders. Let's open it up, demo 1. And this last one is subtotals, shade rank. Every time I see that one, I get a kick out of it. Shady, no, shade. So I had a customer call in just a little while ago. This one came up. They wanted to do a ranking, and you can use the rank function that you saw up on top on the right side here when we're in full edit mode. One of the options you have available in the blocks is to use that rank. And I always tell people, I don't like to do that rank. Let's get the block highlighted here. And let's go back up here. And there's my rank button for ranking, and I can rank it. The problem is you pick top 3, bottom 5, top 50%, bottom 50%, okay? But it never gives you the display value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, well, that's for the birds. So way to do that is to take advantage of the function in the function library, and it's one of several that have changed over time, along with the relative date function as well. So here's my rank quantity. Let's look at how it's built, and let's show you very cool how this is. Edit it. rank, all it is rank of the quantity. That's it. That's all it requires. There's 3 additional objects you can supply for it that aren't necessarily required. A reset can be applied and it automatically ranks it and gives it a number just to get the number's sake. And it's very flexible. So what I did was I had a break in this report with customer information and I did a ranking on quantity. Okay. And it ranked them down the line. So, here's my number 1 based on the quantity was 40, 2 was 21 and so on. But then they wanted to go a step further. And this one threw me for a loop. I guess I need to think more out of the box. They said, well, what I want to do is if the rank quantity value is an even number, I want to make it red. I went, what? So as long as I used this new rank function, which I did, and I did a rank the quantity like you see, and all I had to do with the rank even, watch this. Just this test to see if it's even or not. Okay, let's edit it. This is pretty cool. And it says even rank quantity. Can you believe it? It's that easy. I hadn't used the even or odd in such a long time. And when this question came up and I said, oh, that'll take care of it. If it returns a 1, if it's even, otherwise it doesn't, ignores it. Okay. But then I went one step further. I went to conditional formatting. And this is the preferred way when you're doing conditional formatting. There's an option up on here, but you really want to use the one down here. It's a little more, you can do a little bit more with it, but there's formatting rules. That's where it's located along. There's one up on top up in this area as well. So we'll go to formatting rules and shade even rows. Let's edit it. And they said if rank even, if the rank even is equal to 1, which means it's an even row, we change the background to red. Look how simple, very easy, very simple. Yet again, I'd never had a request like that, but they wanted the even ones to be highlighted. So we did conditional formatting on that, like you saw. And then we applied that same rule to the column next door to match it down the line, and away we go. All right. So I think covers most all of them. The relative date. Oh, this, I got to show you this one, then we'll wrap up with this. Let me just close this because I'm getting a lot of stuff going on here. Let me do this last example real quick. I'll pick a different universe for this one. This is a good one, another one of my favorites. And some of you may never have seen it or realized it. Hopefully most of you have. Feature that came out in an earlier version, but it's in 4.3, obviously done a little bit differently. Let's go out to folders. Oh, for that one, I don't really need the folders. So let me go back up here. We'll go back, scroll back down to our main Webi window here. So things are going down rather than across when we went 4.2 to 4.3. And again, we're going to pick a universe again. And we're going to use Island Resort for a real simple example. And let's bring in sales, person, and invoice date. And we'll run it. There you go. Move it over. Okay. And remember, we have if you're really new at this with 4.3, you're so used to going to the left side for everything. My available objects are over here, and all the other things, the secondary little options that were variable along the edge, and so on. A lot of that, or most of it's moved up here, so it takes some reorientation. But the age-old problem we have is you have a date in your universe, specific date, but you want it broken out by year, quarter, month, week, and day. We better be good using formulas and variables to do that. Webi says, nah, and again, I don't remember what service 4.2 service pack this was in. I'm going to say 5 or 6. I'd have to look up my little grid. But what I want to do is I would like to automatically break these out. Over on the right side where you see invoice date, anytime you see the three gray dots, that's a left click, not a right. So I've got my 3 gray dots for the invoice date. And it says, do you want to create time dimensions, manage as a group, or do a custom order? I want to create a time dimension. So I select the time dimension option. This is another one of those features I like. We can call it invoice date, but what we want in that one is year and quarter and month and day. And I want additional options for day. Could be day of the week, day of the month. For those type of options, I can set a fiscal starting in a period that's different. First day of the week's different. Set date ranges and so on. And away I go. And away Webi goes. Okay, and if you look at the right side, look at your invoice date now, what it's done. It's really expanded it nicely. Okay, let's open it up. And here's year, quarter, month, day of invoice date, and so on. With this one, you can manage, you know, oh, you don't want to group those. We want to leave them the way they are. But look how nice it is. Quarter can be, you can see the secondary breakout of those. For month, they're broken out with the month combinations that are available. Day of the invoice date could be different combinations, day name, day week, day of the month, all auto-generated for you. That's it. They're done. And now you can use those in your report. You don't have to do it yourself. I always joke with the one of our Samuel Polachek, one of our good buddies in Paris, that we'll get to work with on the new releases and stuff. And I remember talking about this and telling him, you need to put this in there. Tableau has it. And I love it over there, but and it's a simple thing. And that's all it takes to light the match. And they did. They put the dates in, automatic date generation. I've had people request that for years. But again, not realizing that's available to you. So again, auto-generated for those, and away you go. So those are kind of the big features that I like, that I find particularly nice. That for me are good ones. But questions, anybody? I apologize for the delay on that, but we've got in and got rolling. So hopefully it was valuable. If there's any particular ones you'd like to see or whatever, just drop me an email. I can pull one of those little mini mod pieces out and mail it to you as well.
Thank you, Michael. Thank